For the little baby, the rub, nigga, I gotta be safe.
Let's get to the sports talk.
Like we've been discussing, it makes a lot of sense for him to be traded. You know, he's in the last year of his contract. He's injured, supposed to start being able to start practicing next week. Do you want to keep him in Cincinnati, which is their tradition, not to be aggressive, and see how Ryan Finley does with him, and you can make a better evaluation on him? Or do you go ahead and get something of value? He does need a new contract at the end of the year. He's a guy who's been injured a lot the last 2 years. So what's the price that you would pay? And then the other factor is the obvious one. It's the Bengals, and they usually are very conservative.
So a couple other factors. I would talk to the player, see if I could maybe get an extension done. Again, core player, been productive. Can we pair him with Finley or another quarterback?
The injuries worry you, Mike?
Absolutely. I would certainly want to structure the contract. And we talked about that with someone we looked at, Michael Thomas and Amari Cooper. So, Wendy, I would try to structure it where he had some guaranteed money, but maybe a little bit less than some of these other top flight receivers. The other factors I would consider, though, is if I do move on from him, I can get a compensatory pick, presumably as high as a third-round pick if he signs a big contract with another team next year. And then, obviously, the last thing they could do is they could franchise him and keep him on a one-year deal next year as well, if they want to maybe take it on a 1 year at a time standpoint. So those are kind of the three options that Cincinnati has.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at it, you're going to say, okay, this compensatory, what you're going to get if you just let him leave is not that far away from what they're offering right now, so why not keep him? I mean, that would be the deciding factor. So somebody really wants to step up. It would have to be something above knowing what they're going to get as a compensatory.
Well, one thing that you did say that was of interest to me is to see how he paired with Ryan Finley, assuming A.J. Green gets healthy and comes back. If the compensatory pick's not that far off than what you'd get, then wait, see what you got, and then you still get the pick.
We feel like they've been terrible, but if you go and look game by game, they lost by a point in Seattle to open the season. They're a team that
their defense was good.
Yeah, looked like they were going to be semi-competitive, but they got a blank.
Your optimism today is
amazing. It is
very unwarlike. They're terrible. They absolutely.
Wait. I got these glasses on real quick. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong team.
That's not nice. No, I'm with you more. I think that there were some games there that they could have stayed in. They could have maybe even won. I don't think they're as bad as we
think.
They were fantastic. Anytime you're saying maybe even one, no, you're in
dress
trouble.
up a pig.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing right now. It's
why are you looking at me? Yeah.
Like, man, you can't really judge them, man. Only you can say they not a good team because they haven't won a game yet. Like, far as like they had a star wide receiver injured, another wide receiver injured, they had offensive line problem. They had a chance to win the first game in Seattle. Lost that. They lost their confidence after that. Like, it just had to do with injuries, and then plus, Dalton had no confidence in his line. His offensive line let him get hit so many times, he lost confidence in them. Then some of his wide receivers don't get open to help him out. Like, that's the thing they missed. A.J. Green the most could help this team, like could open this team offense up, but he been hurt most of the year. And he don't want to leave Cincinnati. He don't want to be franchise tag. He want a long-term deal and finish his year out with Cincinnati. He said in the article that he want to be like Larry Fitzgerald and play with one team. He said he loved it here in Cincinnati. Like, he just want to be with one team. He said he want to be in Cincinnati the rest of his career. He don't want to go nowhere else. Like, he just said, like in the article, he just want to be like Larry Fitzgerald. He want to finish his year out with his team. Like, he just want a long-term deal. He don't want to be on the franchise tag. He want a long-term contract with the Bengals. And if he do play next week with Ryan Finley, you gotta see how this gonna work. Like, is Ryan Finley gonna be the guy? Like, he probably can be the guy. Like, that's why if he want to play, see how they both work together. It's gonna look different. I have a Dalton back there, but they was Zach Taylor wanted to move away from Dalton. But you can't really blame some of this stuff on him either. It's like, man, when you got the injuries and you got offensive line problem, you got guys that can't get open. Like, it's so much to go on about the team. Like, yeah, you can say they not a good team. Of course, they ain't got no win. But they got so many injuries going on, problems going on in the organization.
Because pigs don't have no lips.
That's right.
I'm talking, we're probably trying to put a dress on it. This team is not good. This team is, and this team, as it is constructed moving forward, will not be good this year.
Bigger
and so in making these decisions, we have to make decisions based on what we want to be as a team going forward in the future, because these last 8 games or the last half of this season is about evaluating what you have in your locker room, figuring out which guys you think can be core pieces moving forward, and how do you build around them with your head coach that will be heading into his second year.
Adam, so what could the Bengals get? What's the best offer they can get for AJ Green?
Well, listen, he's going to leave as a free agent this year, you'd have to figure. And if he leaves, then they're going to get back a compensatory third. So if you're going to get a third in 2021,
You got to get 2 now.
you got to get a 3 now at the very least, and I think a 2 because he's a really good player.
When healthy.
When healthy, but that's fine. I think he will be healthy. Like, he is in the prime of his career. Someone in the same draft class, Leo Jones, just got $23 million a year from the Atlanta Falcons, and I think he's that caliber of wide receiver. If you're a contending team in search for another wide receiver, why would you not give up at least a 2? For a player that
Mike, if you're trying to do that, do you need to know going forward you can sign him though?
100%, Ryan. And what we've seen like recently in the league, I think there was 2 pretty big mistakes. When the Rams traded for Jalen Ramsey, didn't do an extension. When the Houston Texans traded for Laramie Tunsil, they gave up all these picks, no extension. So to your point, RC, if a team gives up a second-round pick out, like you're suggesting, and doesn't give an extension, you're giving all the leverage in the world to the player.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily make it a mistake. It just makes it more difficult to get the contract signed. You have control. You give that control away when you don't exercise that opportunity.
But Jack, here's why it's a mistake. Instead of paying $1, it's going to be $1.10, $1.20. So when I go down to your office and say, hey, coach, you know that left guard and safety you want? You can have A or B. You can't have both because I screwed up. And we didn't get Tunsil, we didn't get Ramsey signed when we traded for him. So now we're going to pay more. It's going to cost you another starter.
That's right. No, it's going to cost you something.
Ramsey gave his word.
That's right.
But to me, getting it done, I like the idea of getting it done.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Won't be a problem.
The Bengals,
Ramsey said, don't worry about it.
Jack, let me ask you a question. When you coached, was there a wide receiver you feared more than AJ Green?
I mean, I'd say, he and Julio were 2.
There you go. That's elite
standing across from him, you absolutely fear. He was a dude that AJ could do it all. AJ could do it all, and we knew while playing him that Andy Dalton wasn't necessarily special, but that guy was. And you were going to roll coverage to him. You were going to cloud up to his side because you understood that putting one guy on him couldn't stop him. And he's one of those dudes that even when covered, isn't. And when you can have a guy like that and add a dude like that on your team, it doesn't only change the way we have to play you, it changes the way we have to coach against you. And I believe that's what AJ Green could add to a team. But I understand, too, the business that goes into getting a guy who is on the last year of his deal, a guy who's often injured. How do we figure out the money and the economics of that as well?
He played 9 games last year. He hasn't played any games this year, so we're back to that. You need to pass the physical, don't you?
Yeah, that's the variable, too, which is like, look, again, Jack, we expect to be partners here next 10 years. Those are the discussions we're having in the building, which is in 9 games, he's going to be a free agent. So why would we give up a second-round pick like Adam's suggesting when in 9 games we could just sign him as a free agent? So if I'm going to give up a draft choice, I want to know that I have cost certainty. If not, I'm going to wait it out.
Does it not? Does it not help if you can have a guy in your building? Because what happens is if you go out and you trade for AJ Green and he's in your building for the second half of the year, maybe he starts to like it. Maybe he forms bonds with teammates and with coaches. And so now you're not on the same playing field as these other people who just get him in for an interview or a meeting.
Hey, we've seen it in basketball. We saw the Raptors trade for Kawhi Leonard in the last year.
Wait. I knew you were going to do this. I knew you were going to do this NBA stuff.
But they did this is going to happen. They got Kawhi. Correct. They went all into win.
It's like he could change your organization. Like he could change everything for him. He could make a big impact. Anyone that trade for him. Like you get him there. Like, is it going to change? It's going to just change how the team plays. He can help you win a championship. He can help you become a good team. Cause he's that explosive. He's a great wide receiver, future Hall of Famer. If you get him, hey, it's gonna help you. It's gonna help you win in the long run. It just depends on he want to leave Cincinnati. Like he keeps saying he don't want to leave, but if y'all do get him from the Bengals, it's a great pickup for anybody that get him. Cause what he can bring to the team, he can bring a lot. Yeah, I know he be injured a lot, but when healthy, he's a great wide receiver.
A championship, and they did. And so I think that's a good move.
And Ryan, will you tell Mort that that's an appropriate analogy to bring up in our trade?
Absolutely.
Mort, this one might work. It actually works. This one might work.
Listen, I agree.
I do kind of like it.
I feel you on that though. But Shefty, so what you're saying is if you're a contending team that needs one player, needs an
If you're
offensive
one
player,
AJ Green
you go
away,
get it.
yeah.
I do it. For a Super Bowl, as
If
hard
you're
as it is
one
to win
AJ
one,
Green away, but you gotta be a decent self.
you can't be the Bengals.
Well, clearly, that's part of the problem.
Who are the contending teams that
New
you think
England
would need?
needs a receiver, but they don't have the money.
They'll still win the Super Bowl.
So,
Yes, that's the problem.
Woody, this is an important point. So the way the league office views trade papers, it's a contract between Team A and Team B. So you could actually put in contingencies in that agreement, which is if the player signs an extension, it goes from a 5th-round pick to a 3rd-round pick.
Jets and Giants.
So
Didn't we
what's
just see that
happened
with Leonard Williams?
yesterday? So you could actually address that, and I understand that. Get them in your building, try to recruit them. But I also want to know that if I'm getting a player only on an 8 or 9 game rental, I'm not going to give up a lot of draft capital because I want to make sure I have the player and I know what it's going to cost to keep him. So if I can protect myself in the trade, I would consider it. But as you mentioned before, Mort, the Bengals are very conservative. They typically wouldn't make trades with those sort of contingencies.
Yeah, Diana mentioned the Patriots, and Patriots don't have cap room, so they would just take them as a rental to try and secure number 7.
Mm-hmm. All right.
In terms of Super Bowls.
We'll continue the AJ Green discussion. Clearly, a lot of country
What about
started from
Kawhi
here.
Leonard?
No, we'll go back to that. It did work, Mark. Sorry. How about Trent Williams? Because that's a name that we have talked some about, and certainly offensively could be of interest.
Diana already talked about how they're now open to at least talking about Trent Williams. We know that the Cleveland Browns had expressed some interest. My understanding is that interest is more lukewarm than it is hot.
And just from the beginning, guys, you just have to wonder how Washington just handled this. Just limiting this to, 48 hours where they really were putting it out there that they were opening to taking calls and opening to trade Trent Williams, when over the last few months since Trent started to hold out, anytime you would talk to Washington, are you open to trading? And they were always no, and pretty much hang up the phone on you when you were inquiring. And so just a few days ago, they decided now it's the time. But when you look at this in terms of managing correctly, it doesn't make any sense, because they could have gotten so much more for Trent Williams.
Who's managing it? Bruce Allen.
Team President Bruce Allen is the one making the decisions here, with Dan Snyder close by.
Right.
But you look at the situation where when teams were in need, when they were desperate for an offensive lineman, like a Trent Williams type player, you see what the Texans did with Laremy Tunsil, what they handed over for him. Just think about what Washington could have received if they were open to this earlier, instead of now doing it. We're just a few hours away from
The question I would have would be, let's say they don't trade Trent Williams, there's not a suitable partner, or they make that decision. Does he report?
He should report. He should report.
I know he should. Will he?
Yeah.
We talked about this before. He should report, and his back should be tightened.
Jalen Ramsey showed him the way, yeah.
Have we made that a verb now? Like to Jalen Ramsey?
Here's the difference, though. At 4 o'clock, you can't trade him, so his back could be really tight. Now, he does have to come in within 30 days of the end of the season, so he gets credit for this year on his contract, because right now he has this year and one more. So to get that year to burn off, he has to show up at least with 30 days to go in the season.
All right, let me stop you.
It's because of the team doctor. That's why he didn't show up. It's like he don't like the way they manage his injuries. Like, you gotta be concerned about that. If nobody know how to manage how your body works or what's going on with you, and they misdiagnose it, you don't want to get in the field and reactivate it. That's why, that's why he set out the holdout, because of that. He ain't like how he was misdiagnosed his injuries. He reported back to the team. It's just like you just got to be concerned about that. You got to get the outside look on it because you want to be healthy for the rest of your career. You don't want to get out there and you ain't feeling right. That's why he missed out most of the season because he ain't like how they was just doing his injury.
Todd Archer, who is our Cowboys reporter, has an update on Jamal Williams. Is that correct?
Adams.
Jamal Adams. Okay. Where's Todd's update? Anywhere? There it is. Can you see it, Diana? Go ahead.
So the Cowboys are among the teams the New York Jets have reached out to regarding safety Jamal Adams. This is according to multiple sources that tell Todd Archer the Cowboys have had discussions about their second mammoth trade in 2 years. Of course, we remember Amari Cooper from the Raiders. And then Adams, who went to high school in Texas, would be another boost to the defense with the other trade acquisitions of Robert Quinn and Michael Bennett, but would come at a much steeper price. So Cowboys in the market there.
They're in the market for, I think, something more of a free safety. I know what you said, he could play anywhere, but they're definitely in the market for somebody to play a safety position. The Cowboys are, but I don't think it's Jamal Adams.
So I know where he wants to play. And he wants to play there. I know he wants to go back home.
In Dallas.
He's from Dallas. I know he wants to go back home. This is from speaking with him. And the other side of it is like the Dallas Cowboys should do it. When you look at what they can do at corner, having some young players out there, Byron Jones, Awuzie, and now being able to add Jamal Adams, it doesn't matter who your other guy is. He just has to be very good at being a highway cone and getting people on the ground if it breaks. He's that type of player. And you look at what that Amari Cooper trade did for that offense last year in that passing game, Jamal Adams would do the same exact thing.
If they do that trade, which they should, that would change their defense a lot more. They already got a solid defense. Now imagine if you get Jamal Adams in Dallas to go along with that defense. That would make that defense more dominant if they do it. They should do it because that will help change everything. That's the trouble they be having sometimes. They safety problems. He will fix all of that because the tools he had and he could bring to that team.
Defensively, and if you, at least to me, and coach may differ from me, if you can't find a way to use a player like that, you should go coach basketball because he's a football player. And if you like coaching football players and you like coaching defense, you want a dude that wants to run and hit, and that's what he wants to do.
We said earlier, though, the Jets were listening but not actively shopping Jamal Adams. Will they actively listen in this particular instance?
I think they are.
Yeah. Yes.
I think they are.
So it's potential. There's potential.
Oh, there's no question that they are listening.
No, he's Troy-like. That's why I love the guy. Yeah. I mean, I see the passion. I see the love he has for the game of football, and then you throw in the fact that he is just a really good football player on top of it.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes you get a good player, and you wish he'd have a little more passion. This is a guy that brings everything he has to every play.
Now, here's one thing that would complicate things with Dallas. You still have sitting there, you have to get Dak Prescott signed.
Yep.
You still have to get Amari Cooper signed. You have a first-round pick for him. At least with Jamal Adams, you have a couple of years until you would have to sign him as well.
That's not an issue.
Yeah, so, right, but now you're just stacking another, and presumably you're going to let Byron Jones
Stacking great players. That's what we want to do, Mike.
Hey, I know, absolutely, but now we got to figure out.
Somebody's got to pay him.
Right,
Yeah, somebody's got to pay him.
Someone's going to graduate. It's probably going to be Byron Jones, a really good corner, because you can't keep them all. And again, we didn't make this decision, but they signed Lyle Collins before Dak Prescott. They signed DeMarcus Lawrence, who's a good pass rusher. But so at some point, they're going to run out of space. And the guys that they decide to prioritize before the quarterback, to me, may cost them another good player at some point. But at least Jamal Adams, they would have for a couple of years.
All right, again, 4 o'clock Eastern is the NFL trade deadline. That's technically the end